Hello there, this is a step away from my usual gaming videos, though those of you that might know me or have seen a few of my videos might already know that I'm a particle physicist. Today I'm going to show you around my place of work when outside the office. That place is SNOLAB, in case you haven't already read the card. SNOLAB is located 2 kilometers underground, or that's around 1.3 miles in old money, at an active nickel mine just outside Lively, near Sudbury, Ontario. It's roughly a 4-hour drive from Toronto, so now you hopefully know roughly where I'm coming from. The day here starts quite early. We typically get a cage in the morning down at around 6 a.m. and walk through the mine on the 6800 level, and then enter the lab. Here I'm just showing you a short clip of the boot wash station outside the lab. From there we remove our mining gear, take a shower, and don our clean room gear. Obviously there is no footage of that. So we're going to go out into the lab, and first things first, I've got to grab my helmet. So there we are, and so we will go into the old section, the new section of the lab first. There's some things happening right now in the new section, which means I've got to wait for about 5-10 minutes. So I'm just going to go and take you down to the new section. All right, so through these double doors is basically a long drift. Right at the end is where the cupole starts. It's where deep is. And we're going to go all the way up there first, and then I'm going to snake back through some of these labs that you can see basically on the right hand side afterwards. This is mostly because I want to find out first where I can actually walk around. I haven't been in those sections for a little while. So yeah, when I came to Canada in 2010, and I worked for the Deep 3600 experiment, and yeah, I worked on that until about 2016. On the left in this little cubby is Halo. This is a neutrino detection experiment looking at basically supernova neutrinos. They interact with the lead and the helium-free detector, so it's the NCDs as they're called. Yeah, so basically this is part of a supernova early warning system. And I'll pause here and expand briefly on this. So the initial process that occurs in a type 2 supernova, that's a core collapse type, produces lots of neutrinos. And it does this because the iron core of a very massive star no longer can fuse, and so it starts to kind of collapse and compress. And when this goes in excess of the Chandrasekhar limit, the core will further collapse and heat up. Now, degeneracy pressure ultimately halts this collapse, and in this case it's the conversion of what would be electron degenerate material into neutron degenerate material. What that means is that the electrons, the free electrons, will combine with the protons in what would be carbon, I suppose, once it all dissociates. This material produces then a massive burst of prompt neutrinos, and that actually releases up to around 90% of the energy of a supernova. Now, because neutrinos are so weakly interacting, these neutrinos pass straight out of the supernova before the light does, and so this gives us an opportunity to give astronomers a heads up as part of an early warning system. You can't actually see the experiment, but what they did do is take a picture of it before they put the shielding around it, and so you can sort of see what it looks like on the inside of the shielding. Okay, so this is all our rigging. I am just going to carry on over here, go out into where deep is. This drift is actually where I first worked when I came to SNOLAB. I worked for Queen's, but I would travel to SNOLAB. In this area here
used to be Deep 1. It is now decommissioned and gone. And we have now different experiments in place here. I think this is
future mark here. So yeah, this is actually Sensei. It is the reason why I'm confused is because the first PICO vessel used to be here, the first PICO experiment, and it used the same shield tank. So again, this is quite nice sort of recycling of old equipment. So it's actually a sub-GeV dark matter search using Skipper CCDs. Really new, neat technology.
Anyway, that's fine. So yeah, back here, it used to be the DAMIC experiment, which is again, it's a CCD experiment. The funny thing about particle physics is that we always essentially build these really nice detectors and then we hide them behind shielding. So yeah, this is as I can see on the DAC here, this is basically Sensei DAMIC. And it's essentially a CCD using a different technology, which basically means that you can cool these CCDs to cryogenic temperatures. They are therefore very, very, very quiet. They don't have much noise, and you can do very long exposures. And what you get actually looks similar to like bubble chamber things, where you can see the particle interactions occurring on the CCD directly. It's quite cool. Okay, so this is the cube hole. There is a beeping sound happening, which means likely they are lifting, as they are. So we'll just stop here for a second. This is the cryocooler system. It was installed by Stirling Cryogenics, I think back in 2012 maybe. And I worked heavily on this, getting it commissioned and integrated with SNOLAB. It's basically a reverse Stirling cycle cooling system where it uses helium as its working fluid, and you provide the movement, which causes compression and expansion in a double piston system, which is actually at the top. You can actually see the primary piston sticking out of this one, which has its hat removed. So yeah. Okay, so this is the staging area for the cube hole. So looking down, we have basically a freestanding deck. This hole and inner shield tank used to be where the mini clean experiment was installed. And this is where the deep experiment is installed. So deep, you can see this massive tube attached to it. This is because deep is being recommissioned. There needs to be repairs done to the neck and the cooling system attached. So what you see here is this extraction tube. This is basically, we'll have some equipment put in on top of it, and we'll be able to lift the neck, lift the internals of the neck out for repair. But other than this, you can see partially the things that I worked on. You know, it's a bit the strange thing, but basically everything you can see here, which doesn't look like it was bought from a company, I basically installed and had my hands involved in it. So I basically built the entirety of the liquid argon purification system, which is essentially this massive stuff. Obviously, this refrigerator-like unit here is purchased, as are lots of the other components. But you know, it was all basically assembled and put together and commissioned and cleaned by me, yours truly, and installed in place by a big team, but I was a big part of that. Okay, so let's. What we're going to do is we're going to go down closer. We're going to go down the stairs closer. Apologies for the beeping. That's just some hoisting, rigging, and hoisting happening next to me. So yeah, go down the stairs here. All right, so this is the deck, and basically, yeah, this is the glove box for the deep experiment. I'm not going to go and look inside it because there isn't really much you can see. You can basically just see where the liquid nitrogen lines kind of go in and feed to the neck. This is one of the nitrogen lines here. Yeah, so in terms of what I was involved in, basically all of this. It looks like people have recabled some stuff. It was not as messy as that when I left. But yeah, this is basically the gas board which we put together to deliver what was essentially the cleanest argon in terms of radio purity for any argon experiment that's ever been built. So a massive achievement there. Okay, so back there is the electronics. It's a single rack. That will come important later. Okay, so let's go back down to the floor of the cube hole. There is some more experiments installed there as well. Here you can actually see part of the argon storage doer for deep. Now this has had some upgrades since I left. There is now a cooler. This you can see here is a GM style pulse tube cooler on the top of this vacuum T here. Now it doesn't look like it's vacuum jacketed. I hope it is, because if it's not vacuum jacketed, it will freeze. All right. These are two chillers which cool the water tank for deep, which is actually this structure here. You can see. Yeah, so this doer stored all of our liquid argon before it was run through the process systems and purified. And so yeah, I spent a lot of time basically decanting argon and testing it for purity. Okay, so we will walk around the side of this shield tank. This is the mini clean shield tank on the right, and you can see it's open. Yep, so mini clean was decommissioned and taken apart. I believe it's going to end up at Science North, at least that's what I've heard. Not sure if it's true. So this is the News G experiment. This is basically a dark matter search, or proof principle dark matter search, using a spherical TPC. Sorry, I couldn't think of the words. Yeah, you basically have a spherical TPC with a central anode and cathode being the copper sphere. So yeah, that's running right now. Super cool. And there is a small passageway, a short passageway here, which is a passageway between the cube hole and the cryo pit. Now, you know, many people will tell you about different tours, and obviously you could probably hear the sound change just then. There's obviously ventilation to this area, but basically what ventilation there is going through these two little holes on the tops of the door. So this area is always warmer than everywhere else. It always smells a little bit different as well. Not bad, just different. Okay, so then we go into the cube hole, and the temperature comes straight down because of this massive amounts of ventilation provided by this here. This enormous column is the xenon still, which we have here, which is an experiment from Creighton for an EXO, I believe. Yeah, so this is essentially for enrichment of xenon gas for double beta decay searches. So this space is unoccupied, as you can see.
the only active thing in here is the still. We used this when we were in deep for lots of staging of equipment. And yeah, so... Oh yeah, the other thing which is a common feature at SNOLAB is these tacky mats. Basically anything which you can pick up on your feet, you want to remove it. And so yeah, these sticky mats are very common in clean rooms. And of course they're everywhere here. Okay. Yeah, so that's the old, sorry, that's the, I keep saying old. That's the new section of the lab. Yeah, it's a pretty big place. I should actually just point out this taped door. I know that looks proper sketchy, but essentially that is our emergency exit from the lab at this location. It's taped just for cleanliness. I know it looks a bit weird, but I'd rather have it looking sketchy than it be dirty, since, I mean, this is a clean facility. Don't want dust and crud getting in. Yeah, so what I'm going to do is I'm just going to turn off and yeah, we'll head back to the new section of the lab where hopefully they have finished with a test that we're doing. Basically, we're doing a pressure test of some equipment, and I decided to have tea, so I can't get back in there until they've finished. So yeah, catch you over later. I was heading back up and I got accosted by a good friend of mine. I'm gonna work on deep for a few minutes, so I'll make sure I bill Carlton. Yeah, so we want to move an RGA into place, and it's a beast as Pierre just described. So yeah, where are we going with it? Is it going on over here?
The majority of the activity in the new section of the lab is dedicated to dark matter direct detection searches. These are primarily looking for dark matter particles interacting with their detector medium and producing a signal in a region of interest, which is usually of a specific energy range that has been optimized to have a low or zero background. Deep's target is liquid argon. NewsG is a low threshold experiment looking at sub-GeV WIMPs, low mass range basically, in a gas target at high pressure. That I'm not totally sure what the gas is, but it can be a mixture of elements. And the CCD-based experiments are using interactions on silicon. We'll go now to the last part of the new lab, the ladder labs, and look at the experiments running there. These are also dark matter experiments.
Yeah, so that's actually one of the things I quite like about the sort of academic environment here at SNOLAB. So yeah, you know, I worked on deep, and Pierre just asked me for a hand. And you know, I was more than happy to help out. Most of the time when you ask people for a hand, they're more than happy to help. And yeah, so we just had a bit of a chat about his RGA measurements. Since when I was working on deep, I did lots and lots of measurements with RGAs for basically QA for argon purity. Since putting argon through our purification system, the argon has to be clean, like 5 nines clean. Yeah, if it's not clean enough, basically it can damage the Say's getter to scrub any nitrogen, oxygen, water, this kind of thing. That needs 5 nines purity argon. Okay. I have come here to the ladder labs. This was the first door we passed when I started recording. I'm going to just swing back around to the left. I'm going to quickly check I'm allowed to do so. I think I am. Every single time we did tours, everything was good just to walk around, as long as you don't touch anything. Okay, so what you can see in front of me is actually the chem lab underground. So this was used extensively for quality assurance of liquid scintillator. I'm just going to pop in here very briefly. So yeah, right now it's not in use because we've finished. This is the repair experiment. Basically, at SNOLAB there is some biological experiments, and this is essentially testing the absence of radiation on basically, I believe it's fish embryo. So basically they look at various things like mutations and whatnot which happen with fish embryo in the absence of radiation. So there is, sorry, spinning around. So this is this chamber is here because it's basically a nitrogen blanket. So you keep all the radon, which is in the air, out. So actually the biggest background underground is essentially the radon. And then there's lead shielding to get rid of anything else. Okay, so in here, yeah, so this is basically the machine shop. It's basically a machine shop underground. It's quite clean. It's probably the cleanest machine shop I've ever seen. So basically, when we're underground, So when we're underground, essentially, if you have any, well, okay, when you're underground, you're down here for 10 hours, at least. There are earlier cages if you want, but, you know, you're down here typically for 10 hours. And so you want to make sure you have everything you need. If you don't have everything you need, then you're stuck, basically. You might as well go back to the surface if you can, and that's it for the day. So the machine shop there can do small jobs if you want something custom made or some modification made. But typically we like to be prepared. Everything should be planned before we bring it underground. Yeah, okay, so if I reorientate so you know where I am, this is Vale Labs. It's called Vale Labs because, yeah, from a top-down perspective, it does look like a pair of ladders. This is the Cute experiment. It's basically the Cute cryostat is essentially like a test stand for super CDMS, so they can have a very quick turnover of changes made to their their detectors, sorry, which are crystal, germanium and silicon crystal detectors. Over here is where Super CDMS is going to be installed. We've got lots of platforms and the anti-seismic springs system. Back there in the big thing, I think, is the low radon. Basically, the radon filtration system. I believe I might check that. Make sure I'm not talking complete garbage. And if I come over here, this tank is PICO. Hey. So this is PICO. It's currently open, and you can see the pressure. This is a big, massive pressure vessel which would be inside. I think that is essentially the flask. It's covered right now, obviously, because we want to keep everything under control. And I'll just swing back over here.
Now, I unfairly skipped over most of PICO there, mostly because people were working and I didn't want to get in the way. It is basically a crystal flask filled with fluid held in a supercritical state, which is basically a fancy way of saying that it wants to boil at the slightest provocation. It is a bubble chamber, and they take pictures of the bubbles formed by particle interactions. It's really cool that in the history of particle physics, bubble chamber experiments won many Nobel Prizes, and roll on 50 to 60 years, and we're back on a more modernized version of the same technology to search for dark matter this time.
And then you can see where I started. So yeah, PICO and Super CDMS, and they're all dark matter experiments. In this case, they're using solid state technology. They're using crystals of germanium and silicon. They are the detection medium. Yeah, okay. So yeah, basically they have interactions in their germanium or silicon, and then they drift it to look at the ionization. They also do something fairly cool, which is that they also look at phonons. So CDMS is basically at millikelvin temperatures, and they look at phonon vibrations, which happen in the crystal, which is basically heat. So they're essentially so cold that a particle interaction inside the crystal will produce enough detectable heat above what their background is. It's pretty amazing technology. So I always think it's super, super interesting. Okay, so this here is SNOLAB's T plant, as we call it. So it's a tellurium acid plant. Basically, we get the tellurium raw material and we need to purify it. And so this plant essentially will go through various acid washers and recrystallization of the tellurium in order to prepare it for dissolving. Sorry, I'm going to close that door. It will prepare it for being dissolved in our liquid scintillator via a different plant, which I'm actually not going to go back there.
SNOLAB is a double beta experiment, and we will use tellurium as its double beta decay source. More details to come.
Ahead of me, you can see where it was like a double door system, like an airlock. This is what we used to call the car wash. So everything you see here used to be, back before the lab was expanded, this was the original drift. And so this here would have been where actually in this corner was actually where the boot wash station was. So there's a boot wash station here, and you would go through a door, I believe here, which is now not there anymore. Oh, no, sorry, I am wrong. This is the door here. And these are the original doors of the car wash. So you would go through this door, and that you can see there's a small pathway back here. This is where you would take your boots off and your belt and helmet and things, and then you would go into the dry where you would get changed. So yeah, this is what we call the car wash. Essentially, it's like an airlock system. You would bring your stuff in, clean it, and then you'd come through here. I'll show you the new car wash in a short while. Okay, so as you can see, yeah, back there would have been basically the original entranceway. Right now, we obviously SNOLAB want to be very efficient in use of their space, so we repurposed a lot of the old space for new operations. So this is a liquid nitrogen plant underground. It basically is brand new. They just did some testing. Let's go that way. They did some testing on it just now. Basically, it extracts. Sorry, I'm going to get through to the counting lab here. Basically, it extracts nitrogen from the air. Sucks air in, dries it, removes the nitrogen, and then freezes the nitrogen or liquefies it for use in various experiments to cool down. Okay, right. Hey. Welcome, thank you. Oh, sorry. Yeah, so this is basically what we call the low radon, the low background counting lab. So you got lots of a few germanium detectors currently not hooked up to the nitrogen supply. So there's some germanium counters there for your gamma assays. There is a radon extraction assay board just there. So this was the old, this was actually the old dry. So yeah, again, some more germanium counters here. So basically, yeah, you would come in through those blue door there, and it would be sectioned off, so it would be like a clean side, dirty side. This was the men's, and then the women's dry was above. I feel kind of bad actually, because the roof here. So this shows you who we are in a mine. The back here, as you'd call it, is not flat, and it's you'd be ducking or weaving. It's actually pretty bad that this was the women's dry.
Although I'll state this is free space after the freeze frame, there is actually a biology experiment here, flies in a mine. Now that sounds like a disaster to have flies, especially fruit flies, underground in an enclosed area. The experiment is actually in place to test environmental stress on behavior and other performance factors of fruit flies, typically cage travel and the increased lab pressure underground. Something I forgot to say, it's around 20% extra pressure than it is on surface. It's actually located in a box / refrigerator-like unit on the left in front of the poster.
So yeah, up here is kind of free space, but as you can see, it's a little bit difficult to to use, I suppose, because of the walls. Okay, right. So let's head back down. Yeah. So you would do the kind of stuff you were doing here would be counting. So yeah, if you're running a dark matter experiment or anything else, and you wanted to know if some material was going to give you some weird background, you would basically you'd pass it on to the assay group here at SNOLAB, and then they would put it into one of these counters, and they would count it for you and tell you what contamination it has in it, or what the uranium thorium content is. Okay, so from here, we will go. This is an air handling unit. So from here, basically, this is off this way is the scintillator purification plant and water purification plant, and this way is the SNO Plus experiment. So yep, this is SNO Plus. So this is where I spend a lot of my time. I am the detector manager of SNO Plus, so it's my responsibility to ensure that we have good detector uptime, this kind of thing. So so right now we're taking physics data with full scintillator fill. We don't have any tellurium in our detector. I generally come down to fix electronics problems, or to hopefully help. And what's interesting about electronics, so this is an example of a front-end card which goes in for addressing 32 channels, is that this electronics is old. It's, if you zoom in here, basically 1997. This is a sort of old style electronics, and the good thing is quite similar to what you might hear about lots of things these days. This is repairable. If we have problems with these front-end cards, there are typically components which do go a little bit bad, and you can change them or reflow the solder on them, and it fixes them right up. So what we do most of our time is to find issues with front-end cards and fix them, and then in a test stand that we have, and then put them back in. So yeah, there's a few bits and bobs here. Here you can see a PMT, which is in one of the hexagonal packages, which would be stacked in various panels in our detector. So yeah, each one of the dots which you can see on that screen is basically a PMT, and the PMT is read out by the front-end card. Okay. So yeah, okay. So as promised, I will be going on deck briefly. I've actually got something to do. I'm not just going on this. I'm not going on deck just for this video. I've just got to check something. So yeah, let's go inside this air shower. And you get a horrible noise in a second. Yeah. So basically, we blow the dust off and move around a bit. Yeah, the procedure here is I have to contact our operator. The SNO Plus experiment is being currently run by a remote operator. I have asked them to move the detector into maintenance mode. This basically is just like it is a mode with higher trigger levels with different triggers active. It's just to help our electronics cope with spurious pickup. None of our electronics is shielded. So yeah, rather than make you wait, I'm just going to pause the video while the operator gets back to me. All right, so we are now in maintenance. So I'm just going to go and turn the lights on deck briefly. So turn these lights on. Click, 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 click. I'm purposely not showing you. Okay, so. This is SNO Plus. So, I'm basically going to be on deck to do a survey. Okay, so this is what we call the deck.
So there is a floor here, and turn the brightness up. Okay. From this point onwards, basically the deck is supported via this blue construction above. Around the deck we have our electronics racks. Each one of these racks has potential of supporting 512 PMTs. And yeah, we have 19 racks around the detector, different locations. And you can see that all of our cables basically get festooned up here, up into the racks, and then down basically the cavity walls. Yeah, so this is what it looks like on Snow Plus. As you can see, everything is turned on, flashing lights. Flashing lights are good. This is our timing rack. This basically is the beating heart of the detector. And yeah. Around the detector, you also see these blue structures. These are the hold-up rope systems. These are whiffle trees. They were on snow because snow originally had heavy water inside it, and so heavy water is heavier than regular water, so the vessel had to be held up from sinking. Right now, we have liquid scintillator in there. This is lighter than water. Less dense than water, and so the vessel is actually buoyant, and so yeah, it's actually now held down. Okay, so that's your lot. The middle of the Snow Plus, the actual detector itself, is below us, and I can't show you because we're at high voltage, and I'm never going to undo one of these panels without there being a need for it. Behind this door is the middle of the detector. Again, I'm not going to go in there. I am just going to briefly open it. So there we go. That there is the universal interface. This is where we have our calibration systems go in here for the scintillator deployment. And that's Snow Plus. And now I will do the task that I'm here to do. So.
Snow Plus is a neutrinoless double beta decay experiment. There is a very rare interaction, double beta decay, which occurs in about 30 or so different isotopes, though commonly double beta decay experiments use one of 5 or 6 due to natural abundance and the decay energy of the rest being prohibitive for experimentation. We will use tellurium due to its high natural abundance and favorable endpoint energy. Basically, in a double beta decay isotope, it is energetically forbidden to reach a minimum energy state via a single beta decay. It can, however, reach that state via 2 simultaneous beta decays. This gives us a path to look at a fundamental property of the neutrino, that is, whether it is Dirac, where matter and antimatter is clearly distinct, or Majorana, where the neutrino is its own antiparticle. If it is Majorana, we could see an even rarer class of events which produce 2 electrons which leave with the full energy of the decay rather than what is left in a full body decay. This would be a profound discovery and have consequences for how we understand the creation of the universe we see today.
Yeah, so as I promised, I'm going to go and take a quick look and say hi to the guys in the car wash. So yeah, so this is a new car wash. Basically, everything which comes into the lab has to pass through here, and these are some of the fine people who clean everything. So yeah, on the other side is basically it's like a car wash. So opposite through the doors that you can see there is the drift, where it's all dirty, and then essentially things get brought in here and cleaned. So that includes tubing, everything gets cleaned. Nothing, no dirt shall pass. But yeah, so these are the kind of heroes of the operation. They do an amazing job of making sure everything is clean. And to be honest, I can't state that more. The cleaning crew at SNOLAB are amazing. They clean the lab at least once a shift. And this includes everything, the floors, and sort of why the floors are always so shiny. Basically, yeah, every single piece of equipment that you see in here has to pass through that lab, unless it has been prior cleaned and double bagged, triple bagged maybe, and brought down via another method. So yeah, that's basically SNOLAB. So what else can I say about SNOLAB just as I pass through this very, very noisy section? Please excuse me. Yeah, so SNOLAB is a very, very interesting place to work. It's certainly very unique. I'm quite fortunate to have a position I do. So yeah, so we're doing neutrinoless double beta decay on SNOLAB, and I got into this whole gig doing particle physics at university. I did physics and astronomy was my actual degree, my master's, and I did a particle physics experiment, particle physics PhD on the T2K experiment. And then that's neutrino physics. And so from there, back when I graduated, the big thing was cryogenic experiments, liquid argon, this sort of stuff. And that's when the opportunity came up for Deep 3600. And I thought, hey, I'm going to go and get some experience on liquid argon style systems and go from there. Really, really roundabout career, but ultimately I ended up back here. I actually moved back to the UK, did about a year, and then back to Canada, and went to Triumph, and then rounded back at SNOLAB. So yeah, it's a very, very interesting place to work, very, very unique. Yeah, it's about time I actually got some more work done. So yeah, thanks a lot, everybody.